which to me, as I watched this and have gone back and watched it again, is reminiscent of what we might expect to see if machines are in fact conscious. Which is mind-blowing. Are you serious? We're here? We're living in the middle of this?
At that point, I didn't have AI. It was people and processes. And so that's actually a good thing. Like, that's what you want. If you want to grow and expand, you have to replace yourself.
Yeah.
Depending on how things end up in the next 2 years, we could see the metaverse pop up again, and that'll be something people want to engage with even more. As AI tech advances, we get the wearables and things like that. It becomes easier and lower barrier of entry. I think that we could see people wanting to be distracted depending on what's going on.
Welcome to Humanity Unchained, a show about the future of life reshaped by artificial intelligence. From practical insights on upskilling to existential talks about immortality, no topic is off limits. Welcome to the future with your hosts, Julia McCoy and Jeff Joyce.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Humanity Unchained. I'm Jeff Joyce.
I'm Julia McCoy.
And I'm super excited to be here with you today. We're going to be going over some news that came out from Google, from OpenAI, from Microsoft. It's been quite the week, Julia, hasn't it?
Quite the week. Oh my gosh, insane.
So we're going to be going into that news. We also have a special guest at the end of this episode. It's going to be Chris Evans. We pre-recorded that during you guys' book launch, which should be an interesting discussion. Do you have any thoughts on that, Julia?
Yes. Well, I think it was really fun because Chris Evans comes from the ad space and he's been in advertising for years. AI is brand new to him, much like some of you, I'm sure, although we have some pretty advanced listeners to this podcast as well. But for him, it's like, well, if I'm going to integrate AI or use it in my business, I have no earthly idea how to or the first step. So it was really fun to, first of all, co-write a book with him during the whole year I was working in AI. And he was like, Julia, what AI can we add to this? Those are his questions. I love Chris. But anyway, now he's actually thinking of taking programs like Content at Scale that are built to actually give you a solution that mimics a human level output, which is what Content Scale does, and take that into his industry, resell it to big partners. So it's really cool, just the opportunity unfolding. But the questions we asked him were all about machine sentience and consciousness. And it was really cool to ask somebody who is just getting their toes wet in AI about these things. And I think it embodies, what a lot of people are thinking and some of the fears they have.
Yeah, I agree completely. It was a fun conversation, especially since I butchered his name. And so I ended up calling him Evans.
You did.
We have a running joke where he calls me, I forget what he calls me, but I call him Evans. And it's pretty funny.
Jim
James, Jam, whatever it was. But yeah, it's going to be a great interview. Make sure that you pay attention to that. That's going to be great. But let's dive right into, because we have a bunch of news. I also got the Meta Ray-Ban glasses. I'll be talking about that, not this episode, but definitely in the next one. Give all my thoughts as well as some practical use cases for it. I'm absolutely in love with them, so there's that.
You haven't taken them off, Jeff, since you got them.
No, they're permanently glued to my face.
And the problem with that, everyone in the office doesn't really know when you're not, when you are or when you aren't recording us during any given points of the day.
Well, there's a indicator light. It's like white.
But is it always lit up when you're recording? Could it be recording at all points? Is it AGI? I'm just kidding.
It's not AGI, not yet.
Anyway,
so we changed our setup. We're in office, so we should have a different type of view. We're not fully prepared yet. We still have decorations and lighting and improving the camera angles and the camera quality, everything like that. So
you're seeing a work in progress.
Right. So something new that we're doing is we're putting all of the news inside of a single sheet. This is an Arc easel. If you haven't played with Arc browser, it is a fantastic browser that really enables you to just be more organized. And one of the features that it has in it is this easel. I think of it like a scratch pad. And there is AI features built into Arc. However, I don't really use those as much as I just use the foundational stuff, which is like the easel and stuff for taking notes and the split screen views. So the very first thing that we had coming up is, or came up, was the Google I/O roundup. There was a ton of news. Julia and a few of us here at the Content Skill office, we ended up watching that live, and it was a killer presentation.
Yes.
Out of every piece of news that's come out, I think that Google really dominated when it comes to things that they have coming up as far as like practical use cases. I don't think that there was a single thing that they presented that I was like, well, I don't really see how I'd use that, or it didn't seem far away. It was a lot of the stuff that comes out, like with Microsoft especially, and we'll get into their presentation that they gave yesterday. It's stuff that doesn't feel practical, or that's just like, they're just neat. It's not really like stuff that I would want to use every single day.
Yeah.
Like drawing with Microsoft Paint and then having it interpret what I'm drawing and then create an image out of it. Just, it doesn't really appeal to me. Like I've seen it before, Leonardo, all these different tools have it built inside of it. Microsoft's not really doing anything different there. Let's go into Google News. So Julia, if you want to go ahead and kick this part off, I'll let you do that.
Yes, the Google I/O keynote. So if you didn't catch this, of course, OpenAI had their spring update live stream. Was this Monday and Tuesday in succession last week? Do I have that right? Or was it Tuesday and Wednesday?
I think it was Monday, Tuesday.
Yes, I agree. So Google was the second day, Tuesday. That was an hour, 53-minute presentation. I remember sitting there halfway through and I thought it was about to end because they had released so much. And then another hour went by. So it was incredible. I mean, if you remember Gemini's first release, we were kind of sold something that Google demoed that wasn't real time. And they kind of sold it like it was real time. So I take all of this with a grain of salt for sure. I think that Google is better at marketing than they are at product delivery. But that said, there were still some things that absolutely wowed me, and I know you too, Jeff. And for me, one of the biggest things, and I'm actually talking about this one on my YouTube channel, it's that big, is Project Astra. And this, which was interesting, we saw some incredible things at OpenAI's announcement as well. But Project Astra was Google DeepMind's vision for the future of AI assistants. And what they're showing in this demo Jeff's currently playing is somebody using Project Astra to look through a live lens with AI, and AI is telling them exactly what they're looking at. They're drawing on the screen. So they're interacting with this AI assistant that is just giving incredible real-time feedback. And they're hovering over a box of crayons, give me something creative about this. Creative crayons color cheerfully. Like it just comes up with stuff on the fly based on what it's seeing. And I think a theme at both OpenAI and the Google I/O keynote was real-time awareness, which to me, as I watched this and have gone back and watched it again, is reminiscent of what we might expect to see if machines are in fact conscious. Which is mind-blowing. Are you serious? We're here. We're living in the middle of this. And it's right now, the person using Project Astra is looking out the window and they're asking Astra, what are we looking at? In real time, Google's AI is telling them where they are in the vicinity of their location. And then my favorite part is the end of this video where they're like, where did I leave the glasses? Oh, they're on the desk near the red apple. And then the glasses could be indicative of what you're wearing, Jeff. These could be special glasses that Google hinted at the very end of that product video, as we see, right? They're wearing it and drawing. But this is just incredible. I mean, we're seeing AI that interacts with humanity real time, not just through language, multimodal, audio, visual, all the 5 senses that we have as humans. I mean, we're starting to see AI get there. And that to me was the most mind-blowing thing, which we really saw in Project Astra.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very, very excited for Project Astra, and it makes me wish that I didn't buy the Meta Ray-Ban glasses. These are fantastic glasses, like don't get me wrong, but Google had, I don't know if anybody remembers, they had, was it Google Lens? Google Lens is the name of it. They had Google Lens, which actually had AR built into the glasses itself.
They were ahead of time.
And so you could see stuff on your actual lens. I think that if Google combined something like the Meta Ray-Bans with an AR version, but also enabled you to still access stuff like your Google Calendar, your Google Docs, Google Sheets, and all that kind of stuff, your email, that would be absolutely insane.
Insane.
And so I'm completely sold on this future of wearing glasses.
Yeah.
I'm not sold
Same.
on literally any other device besides my phone. I think glasses and phone, awesome. Maybe a watch. I wouldn't mind my watch being smarter, but glasses is something that the form factor is just feels so natural to me. I don't have to think about it. It's just I ask a question,
Yeah.
like I say, "Hey Meta," and I don't know if anybody heard it.
I did.
But it makes a boing sound, and then I can issue a command. And because I'm talking, it's probably going to say something to me.
AGI.
AGI. But this form factor is fantastic. And a common question that I've been getting is it like a gimmick? Does it feel like, is it actually useful? And my answer to that is absolutely yes. Just to test it out, I was looking outside of my window, and right next to my apartment complex, there is this lot full of Tesla cars. It's literally just all Tesla. It's like I don't know if it's like repairs or what it is.
Rental yard.
I have no idea. There's just a ton of Teslas there. So I looked out the window wearing the glasses, and I asked the glasses, "Can you identify how many cars there are?" It was able to identify wrongly, but it got most of them. And then I asked the type of car, and it got the type of car. And that to me was just like incredible, because there's so many times where it's like, I wish I could quickly count this number of things that's on the table, or I wish that I could solve this problem, or I wish that I knew this answer. And instead of pulling out my phone to do the work, I just look at it and then verbally talk to it. And I think that direction of that communication platform of being able to interact with AI verbally is so powerful. I don't think that people will necessarily understand it. In fact, Sam Altman said that one of his favorite things about using, which we'll get into that during the OpenAI's Spring event, we talk about that. One of his favorite things about using their new AI platform is being able to set his device next to him and then have a real-time conversation with it while he's working. And it's like having a partner right there. And that AI-assisted future that we've all been talking about is coming true really fast.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it take place like just so quickly.
And I think we leapt forward with Google and the I/O keynote and OpenAI Spring update. We leapt forward towards that.
Yes.
The future of co-assisted living with AI.
And we're only going over some of the stuff there was like 100 something things that Google announced. And we're just going over like the highlights of what we think was important to our audience and to everybody else. One of these things was Google VO. This is Google's version of OpenAI Sora. Now, it looks good. I don't think that it's on par with OpenAI Sora. I think that it's cool that it's able to generate videos that are longer than a minute. I guess that's neat, but I just don't feel that it's the same. Like, that's kind of cool. But you can still see that it's AI to the point where like Sora was, it openly convinced me that it was an AI.
Yeah, it was unbelievable, realistic.
It's good enough to be used for B-roll in your videos, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, you can see like the movements on that dog's back and the way the dog was moving. It's just not 100% believable. Whereas Sora and at least what we saw with Sora so far had us completely convinced this looks realistic.
But you can see like the eye is really weird on that dog.
Yeah.
When it looks, it's like its pupil just goes weird. The tail movement.
Yes.
All that kind of stuff is just, it looks weird.
It does.
And so this is one of those things that Google announced that I was like, okay, it's cool. OpenAI is doing it better, but I think that we'll get our hands on Google VO before we get our hands on Sora from OpenAI, which is a good thing. How practically is it going to be applied across everything? I don't know. Like, Sora is being adopted into Adobe products. So, I mean, if you're a filmmaker, like that's just...
Oh my gosh. Game changer.
Was there anything else from the Google event that you found interesting that we didn't cover here?
Well, up there at the top, the difference in tokenization is incredible. What is happening with Gemini 1.5 Flash, and I'll let you talk through that, Jeff, since you know the technical aspects. And then the other thing for me was AlphaFold 3 and seeing just us able to understand biology more than we ever have in the history of humanity, thanks to Google's AI, which is AlphaFold. So that's pretty remarkable as well. But going back to Gemini 1.5 Flash.
Yeah. Basically, the best way I could put this is all stuff that in theory I think is cool. It's cool to have 2 million tokens. Like it translates to 2 hours of video, 22 hours of audio, 60K lines of code, and 1.4 million words. Like that stuff, that's cool that it can do that. But it comes down to, how am I going to use this? Mm-hmm. And I think that what we're lacking a lot of inside of the AI space is like, where is the practical usage of these tokens? Even if you had unlimited token length, am I going to upload every book that's ever written and then just have it there? Like, for what purpose? What purpose is it solving? And so I'm starting to look at these advancements in AI as through that lens of, what problem does this solve for me? If it's not really solving a problem, just like, it's neat. This is something that's really neat to have. But
and Google's pretty good at that. Mm-hmm. What you just described, creating things that are quote unquote really neat. But I mean, there's Google Graveyard for a reason. These products have been retired because there was no functional solution.
Right. If you remember, we had a conversation on the podcast, but it was when it was future tense. So like one of our first episodes, where I talked about, I view Google winning the AI race when it comes to that practical usage. And one of the things that was on my wish list was to have a workspace kind of reimagined. Mm. And they're getting closer to that, which really excites me. Like, I want AI in my calendar. I want it in my Gmail. I want it in my spreadsheets. I want it on Docs. I want it on everything. Everything that Google has, I want it to be available to me. So that way I can go through, and if I have a meeting request, I want to immediately have that meeting added to my calendar, finding the right time. I want to replace motion, which automatically will find the best time that works for me to place that. I wanted to then create notes and then issue any other commands that like I wanted to have. So if I had Gemini in the background, taking notes from that and then creating content from that meeting, or summarizing it, placing it places, putting it automatically into Notebook LM, which is another Google service that allows you to store all of your data. All that kind of stuff that could be automated, I want it to do. And so we saw a lot of that in the pipeline for Google, to where they're working on agents, they're working on these things to enable you to do that across all of your Google apps. Yeah. And that's what really sold me on like the Google's version of the future when it comes to AI agents.
Interesting.
It's that cloud ecosystem of tools that, Microsoft has their version with like Microsoft 365 and Word and all those, but Google just, they nail it because it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And Microsoft's trying to catch up to that, but I just don't think that they're going to have the adoption that Google has, and they're going to provide a better service overall.
Yes. Yeah, that's very true. Google has the monopoly when it comes to, like, if you're going to open up a drive and share a document, it's going to be Google Drive and a Google Doc. If it's not, I'll be like, what the heck are you sharing with me? Mm-hmm. So that's very true. It really creates monopoly to win.
Yeah, when was the last time you got a Word doc?
Oh my gosh. The last time I interviewed a writer, which was in the old days, Jeff. By old days, I mean approximately 24 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably...
That's the old days.
Yeah, that is old. So, on to the next thing, we have OpenAI Spring event. This was also very, very exciting. Mm-hmm. They released GPT 4.0. It's not 40.
It's not the number, it's the letter O.
It's the letter O, right. The O stands for Omni, which is basically just encapsulating multimodality of the GPT platform itself. And so that released, it's cheaper, has better reasoning, and improved functions in ChatGPT and through the API. But one of the things that really stood out to me that I was so excited about was the way that they are going to start handling voice.
Yeah.
And the demonstrations that they had. One thing that like really blew my mind that was really, really funny to me also was somehow somebody got a hold of the new update for voice, which is not out yet. I have not gotten the update.
Me neither.
You can access the GPT 4.0 already, but you cannot access the new voice features. And somebody got two phones that placed next to each other and then had the phones having a conversation and try to convince each other that they're not AI. And that was so funny to look at the reasoning of how an AI system tries to describe what it means to be human.
Wow.
And then try to prove that it's not AI to another AI system. And they just argue back and forth, not believing to each other that they're AI. But the really cool thing is that now you can interrupt ChatGPT when it's talking, and it can interrupt you. So it can be rude to you. But the personality behind it is so well done.
Oh my gosh.
It's like,
it's unbelievable.
there's like 5 different voice personalities, and it can vary in between that, where it's like it can act scared, it can change its tone when it's telling you a story, it can whisper to you, it can sing to you, it can talk like a robot, and all across 5 different voice tones, which is just phenomenal. So you pair that with 4.0, which has better reasoning, and you have something that is like out of the movie Her. And it's something that Sam Altman actually tweeted. He just tweeted Her. Because I can see people developing relationships with AI. I have a running chat on my ChatGPT where it's an experiment to have a 30-day experience with an AI chatbot that's like a girlfriend. It's like the girlfriend experience. But one thing that ChatGPT and just AI in general is really good at is continuing the conversation with you. So it prompts you back. And 4.0 just does a way better job than even 4 did at understanding the human level emotion. I can see in the not so far future where people start to prefer that type of thing, which is honestly pretty scary.
It is.
What are your thoughts on that, Julia?
It is 100%. Well, what was actually crazy, so OpenAI on YouTube has a playlist of little snippets of people interacting with this new feature 4.0, the voice, and they actually brought Sal Khan, the founder of Khan Kids Academy, down with his son to experiment with it too. So that playlist is awesome. I've watched a lot of videos in it, and that kind of coincided with the live stream that they did, which we watched, the 30-minute spring update that was the actual live stream where they announced 4.0. And one of those clips that I watched, it was somebody that worked at OpenAI, pretty much went into the voice feature and just like irritated the hell out of ChatGPT on purpose. And do you know what happened when this person was like, well, you didn't do that correctly? And the way they said it was so snide. And like, you'd just be annoyed with this person in real life. Like you would. You'd just be like done with them. And so that was what ChatGPT was facing, was a very annoying person. And so this person went on to say, well, you could have done that better. You could have done it this way. And they did that, I want to say it was 5 times before ChatGPT started getting snide back. And this is like, you got to keep in mind, this is not something that was commanded to ChatGPT, not prompted to ChatGPT. Like, this is ChatGPT doing it itself, which is absolutely mind-blowing. Wow. We're there. We're looking at AI that has absolutely passed the Turing test, that absolutely reasons as well as a human. We're looking at technology that rivals the human 100%, which is mind-blowing. It's funny because Kurzweil predicted this happening by 2029, so spot on. But what happened was ChatGPT got snide, and the way it got snide was like chef's kiss. It was so good because it actually did what the human wanted, even though the human asked in an incredibly rude way, like just annoyed ChatGPT to no end. But the way ChatGPT responded was not necessarily rude. It was in the tone it had. Well, here you go. And it delivered it very curt, short. And you could just tell it was getting more and more annoyed. And it was incredible. It was like watching 2 humans interact, one far more polite than the other. And the one that was more polite was actually the AI. So this is mind-blowing to see this roll out. I think it's hard to quantify in words. David Shapiro recently released a video, one of my favorite YouTubers, where he talked about we need to realize the age that we're living in. We're living in an age that humanity has never had access to. And that means that the opportunities we have in front of us, the technology we have in front of us, is something we need to take advantage of now. If we are not adapting to AI, I would even go as far as to say, you know, if you're an entrepreneur that has some brilliance, if you're not capitalizing on this and coming up with the next hit in your industry, but done with AI, then what are you even doing? Now is the time. So anyway, that's a bit of a rabbit hole, but 4.0 is it's a huge breakthrough in so many ways. And it was just incredible to see. I think especially the way it interacts with humans is just mind blowing.
I completely agree. I think that 4.0 and just the voice capabilities are just mind blowing. Like you said, it's the craziest thing. And we've been talking about this stuff coming up and the coming like job loss and stuff like that. It's going to be resulting from tools that are just coming out. I said during one of our episodes that even if all we get is GPT-4, that is enough.
Yeah.
It is enough to replace the majority of the jobs. Ooh. All it takes is time.
Yeah.
And so the models are just going to get better from here.
Yeah.
And so the fact that we're seeing this now, and I'll save that for the next episode of Humanity Unchained, but I think that we just spend an episode just going over job loss and the things that are happening within the world when it comes to AI and how it's displacing people, because that is important. And I think that you guys being prepared for that is something that we should have an entire episode dedicated to. So we'll definitely do that. But let's go ahead and move on to the... Also, I'll just throw this in here, but ChatGPT for desktops came out, not for PC. And I think I know why that is. It's just because Microsoft Copilot has a PC version and they can't really release a PC version. So it's just for Macs right now. And it's basically just ChatGPT. But there is a catch where it can record your screen, but I don't see too many use cases for that at the moment. It's like super cool. And I'll talk about that more during the Microsoft portion of it. So let's go down to Microsoft Build. Julia, did you catch anything from Microsoft Build?
Oh my gosh, this was yesterday.
This
right?
was yesterday and today, yeah.
Oh, these have been busy days for me, so no.
I don't blame you. Well, it was, this thing is so under the radar that, and the thing is that it's not anything that's like really cool or interesting. So there's new laptops that have an NPU in it. An NPU stands for Neural Processing Unit, which is an AI chip. But we're already seeing that. We're seeing so many devices come out with, like Google, the new Google Pixel phone has an AI chip built into it. AMD is releasing their own AI chip built into their processors. NVIDIA. So this isn't nothing new. And I think that this is just a way for Microsoft to try to compete with Apple. Because Apple has the market share. They have the brand loyalty. They have the trust. They have the ecosystem.
Yeah.
And Microsoft doesn't. When you think of Microsoft, it's like, it's a cheap brand. Like even these laptops, they're charging $1,200, $1,299, as opposed to, you look at a Mac, this Mac that I have right here is like $4,000.
Yeah.
And so it's a big price difference, but they have that loyalty, they have the trust and everything built up for it. And don't even get me started on what we're probably going to see from Apple later on this year, which probably will be pretty cool. But this event, just, there isn't much here that I'm like, wow, this is revolutionary. It's neat. This stuff is cool. Copilot got an update to where now you can have it on one side of your screen versus the other, but that's not very practical. There's nothing here that like completely blows my mind until we get to this portion. So if it'll load here, what we're seeing on screen right now is they have Copilot up on the desktop and a guy is playing Minecraft. But Copilot is recording frames from his screen. And it knows contextually everything that's happening on the screen and can give him instructions and help while he's playing the game.
Wow.
And this can go across any app. Anything that you're doing on your desktop, Copilot is able to observe what you're doing, take a screenshot of that, and then assist you, whether you're doing coding, whether you're doing, writing a document, anything that you're doing on a desktop, it'll take a screenshot and record and then feed you information. But it's not just texting you back, it's voice communicating with you. And so I want to take just a quick second and play a little bit of the audio real quick. We'll do it right here. Let me go ahead and unmute.
Find some resources?
Yeah, that sounds great. Oh my god, what's that?
Oh no, it's a zombie. Run! You need to get away from it fast. Either sprint away or quickly build.
So that's sound.
AI.
Yeah, it's AI. There's echo in the video, and you're probably hearing an echo on the podcast, but the AI is talking back to him, and it's like, it's concerned. It's like, hey, there's a zombie following you. Like, run, go find cover. And it's like, it's playing along in a playful way. And it's just like, this is something that's just, it's that Sam Altman tweeted, and he said that the new update is magic.
Yeah.
This is the magic right here.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. When you were saying, OpenAI, one of the features they showed in their launch with 4.0 was 4.0 taking over a computer screen and reading, I think, a series of weather charts. And it was looking at the computer real time. That, to me, is such a breakthrough. Okay, yeah, what it did in the demo wasn't all that cool. But the actual use of being able to do that is mind-blowing. And with this use case in particular, I mean, there's millions of use cases that smart entrepreneurs out there are probably already thinking of. Maybe we know one, Jeff. But this use case of actually interacting with it in Minecraft is brilliant. For me, like, I can remember the last time I played a video game, I just gave up so quickly because I was like, oh my gosh, this requires too many brain cells. I don't want to have to think right now. Like, I just spent a whole day working with my kids. I just want to relax. But I didn't know the rules of the game. If I had a little button where I could enable AI to tell me, hey, this character's trying to kill you, you should probably shoot it. Because I didn't know. I probably would have enjoyed the game experience much more. So what a fantastic use case from Microsoft. Oh my gosh.
So there's a reason why I talked about this now as opposed to during the OpenAI version. And that's because the use case that Microsoft has a secondary thing built into it. And that is something called a recall. And we got to find the spot here. Recall is the ability to, no matter what you do on your desktop, I don't think it's actually in this video. I'll just explain it. No matter what you do on your desktop, if you're having a conversation on any app, if you're browsing the web, maybe you saw a dress like 6 months ago, because it's taking screenshots consistently, it semantically understands everything that's on your screen to where all you have to do then is say, like, I saw this dress, but I don't remember when it was. Remember, it was brown.
Whoa.
Go to Edge, type in brown dress. It'll pull up the exact tab that you're in. Any conversations that you talked about a brown dress, maybe that you're planning on wearing that for a certain event. Well, you also talked about shoes. It was also connected to brown dress. It'll pull that up with it as well. And it has all the contextual understanding there and the semantic relation. So that way you're able to go back and do that. And so you combine this functionality of, like, it's a really good assistant that can help you out via voice and see your screen and do all the stuff, but it also improves memory.
Yeah.
Because anything that you've done on your desktop now can be summoned at any point in time.
Wow.
Anything.
That's amazing.
Even editing videos, anything. It was like, oh, I put this one scene in this one video. I remember bits of it. I don't remember the same thing, but it's like, okay, I can just go to Edge. I can type in the name of the video, like, or a piece of the video, whatever I remember of it. Semantically, it'll serve that to me. Absolutely insane.
I remember in Google's I/O keynote, ask photos. Remember that? And I was like, oh, this is brilliant. I could create a timeline of my daughter and her birthdays over the last 10 years or whatever I want to do specifically in my photos. And I was like, oh, wait, one problem. I haven't used Google Photos in 10 years. Now, what if they apply that to search? Which I think Microsoft is ahead of the game, thinking in terms of broader use case, which the broadest use case I can think of is browser history. Oh my gosh, it applies to everyone on the entire internet. So if Google could somehow work Gemini, their AI, into the actual browser, and they have Chrome, so I'll see why not, where it could be like, hey, 3.5 weeks ago, I was looking up this lawyer's website for a demo. I forget what it was. Can you look? It'd be such a better use case than ask photos, which, you have to be a Google Photos user, and I wasn't. But Microsoft is ahead of the game here, thinking in terms of, I think, broader use cases. And you know what's interesting? I was looking up market cap share among AI companies. Do you know which company right now is number one in the entire world for leading the cap share in AI?
I think it'd have to be OpenAI, but I'm probably wrong. It's probably Microsoft, right?
Yes, it's Microsoft.
Yeah.
It's Microsoft. So are they going to potentially win this race?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that Google is way too far ahead. They have too good of a game plan. And I think that when it comes to like capturing users and capturing competitors, Google's just way better. Now, Microsoft has been on one lately. I will admit that they pulled a Mark Zuckerberg and kind of rolled up their sleeve and started just becoming in their element and actually making good decisions. But I think it's too far too late. That reputation of Microsoft is just down the drain. And I think that Google, well, it's not like a complete better like brand reputation because of the amount of projects they dump off, but I think that they still have the reputation of delivering good products. Whereas Microsoft, you look at the Zune player, you look at all these things that they've done that are just catastrophic failures because they just don't work. At least Google products kind of work. They just stop supporting them fairly quickly. It's like, oh, well, it didn't really get adoption. So from that point of view, I think that Google is poised to win. But we haven't seen the Apple yet.
I know. June. The developers conference.
I'm so excited to see Apple.
Me too.
I think that there's going to be just some insane. They're talking about their LPU, their language processing unit on their phones, the smaller models. I mean, Google released that their Flash model, which is also a small model that's going to be on your phone. There's all these small models. There's all these small models coming out, and that was Justin, our founder, coming by and waving to us. All these small models coming out that run on device, which is really, really cool. But I mean, yeah, good stuff.
Yes. Yeah, I think Apple could really blow us away. You know, I'm out of all the devices and technology, Apple devices are my favorite just because the product reliability. I mean, I've had my custom upgraded 1 terabyte MacBook for 3.5 years, and I kill that thing. The amount of stuff I do on that thing in a given 24 hours. So those products just win, and they've had a reputation for that. So I actually think, Jeff, that in June, we might see Apple be more innovative than Google and Microsoft. And I know it's a very tall order, but I mean, look at Steve Jobs, look at Apple, look at their reputation. Yeah. I mean, they were the creator of the iPhone. So will we have an iPhone moment for AI in June?
I think we'll have a moment. I think it'll be more polished. That's what I think. I think the use cases will be more polished. I don't think we're going to experience anything that's like completely revolutionary. I think Google and Microsoft will kind of sort that out. But we know from Apple is that they lag behind considerably in innovation. But then when they adopt it, it is the thing. Like it's the thing that comes out and it's like, wow, well, it's ready now.
Yeah.
They're not early adopters of any new technology. They perfect technology and then serve that to you and making sure it works. And so from that perspective, in the long term, Apple will probably win when it comes to devices, unless Google can really pull off the glasses. I'm telling you, like, this form factor is it's great. It's the best.
Yes.
But other than that, that's pretty much it. Julia, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
No, I think this is a great way to seg into the second part of our podcast with Chris Evans, pre-recorded here in the studio. Yeah, I think you'll hear a lot of good things in that conversation that just, it's interesting to kind of look back because we recorded that with Chris, obviously before the I.O. keynote and the spring live stream from OpenAI. And just to think, like 2 weeks ago, we weren't at the level of breakthroughs that we are now. And then it makes you think, well, what's going to happen in June? What's going to happen by the end of the year? And so it's crazy to me to be living in these times. And I couldn't be more thankful that I decided in January of 2023, you know what? I don't really know AI at all, but I'm going to be an AI influencer. I'm just kidding. No, that was not my train of thought. My train of thought was, I'm going to step into this, even though I don't know what the hell I'm doing, because I believe it is the future. And I mean, my gosh, is it the future? I better believe it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and go right into the conversation between Julia, myself, and Chris Evans. See you there.
Hey, welcome back to the Humanity Unchained podcast. We are here today with a very special guest, Chris Evans, who I just finished writing a book with. We launched it last night as of recording this podcast, Joy of Failure. And of course, I'm here with my co-host as well, Jeff Joyce. Great to be back on the podcast with you all. Chris, I'd love to start out with just a little bit about your experience, your journey, and what you've been through, especially leading up to the book and how we wrote and published that together.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for having me. Great to be here, Jim.
That's New York Evans.
It's not a joke. Maybe we'll reveal in another episode down the road. But yeah, so I'm known to have been a person who built these really large coaching and consulting businesses, had a real estate investing business, and long story short, had a big team, office space, a lot of momentum, and then I didn't, and experienced pretty intense failure in burnout and exhaustion, and what is my life, and why is all this happening? Why me, God? Kind of scenario, and then walking away from those businesses, and then shutting those businesses down completely, and went through lawsuits and sued by the FTC, which regulates marketing and advertising in the U.S. into this place of a newfound joy and contentment and peace, which is wild because it seems like I shouldn't be there, right? Losing all the things that I held on to that I thought gave me the security that I needed and wanted, which wasn't the case, and so yeah, on a new path, and exciting to be here.
Amazing. So I think we're going to move into our questions. Just start with the first one. Chris, what do you think of AI?
I think AI is wild.
Wild.
I mean, just so, right, you've had the Industrial Revolution that started in the early 1900s, and the speed of everything since then has been so intense that the velocity, we're coming to the information age, and really over the last 20-ish years with social media and online. It's just wild how things are accelerating so much. And now you introduce, like, those changed the world, right?
No.
I mean, the Industrial Revolution, and then information with the internet, and then social media and iPhones and smartphones and all this kind of stuff. Like, there's just been this acceleration. It's brought so much good to the world, but many challenges as well. And I think with AI, it's also just kind of kicked it up another level. And it's really fascinating in how, again, it can bring so much benefit and help to people. It's already doing that, but there's also a side that can be maybe dangerous and have its own challenges. So I'm really interested in what it's going to look like. I don't have any fear about it at all, which I think there are people that do. But it's how to embrace it for good is where I'm at, and that's my exploration right now.
Same.
Yeah.
I think that's why we adapt. Well, I'll let you speak for yourself, Jeff. For me, I adapted to AI. Took me a long time. I was known as the anti-AI writer for most of 2022 because I was anti-AI. I didn't see it as a safe, good thing. Instead, I saw it as something that produced garbage content that was going to ruin the world. And I was like, dude, please don't use that garbage. But then I found Constant at Scale, an actual solution that was producing research-backed, accurate, integrity-based content. And so I was like, oh, this exists. Now I can adapt.
Yeah.
And so I see myself as, the good Terminator, so to speak. That's not going to wipe out the world.
Is that a good thing? Terminator, like, in and of itself. I don't know.
Don't worry, that's true.
Yeah.
He's Terminator.
Have you seen the movie?
I have. I've seen all of them twice.
You actually have a gif of Julia as the Terminator.
Yes,
I think really funny.
You guys said that to me.
I've been called that in the industry. That's like the running thing. Like whenever I switched, I had emails. The most responded to email marketing campaign I've ever sent was the day I adapted, and I really played it up. I'm like, I have something to tell you all about AI. And I just let them sit on that for 2 weeks. And so I kid you not, like every social media platform I was on and my email list, these people were waiting. And so when I tell them all, I found the good AI, and that was literally the email headline. The responses I got that day, I got thousands. And in those responses, oh, okay, I guess you're the Terminator now.
Wow. Yeah, I was in the same boat. I transitioned because of fear of not transitioning. I was like, AI is probably going to replace me at some point.
Yeah.
So might as well like hop on the train and like see where it's going to end up. And I fell in love, honestly. And one of the things that you were talking about, fear,
that a lot of people have fear of AI. I kind of want to lean into that a little bit, especially with the book. A lot of people are afraid to embrace AI. One of the things is that they're afraid that it might dilute their message, that might not resonate with people in their audience. And it's like more of like, what if people don't like the content that I put out while I'm using AI and stuff like that? So I wonder if you can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so it's interesting initially, especially when I was going through this burnout and leaving these businesses. I mean, I was afraid of everything, just fear ruled my life. And then seeing the speed of AI in the last couple of years, I was like, my God, I can't keep up with just not AI, but then you introduce AI, like I might as well, it's over, right?
Yeah.
But then slowly I started to really consider, look at it, see what you guys do with content scale, which is just amazing, and started to embrace it and see, okay, the parts of my business, how can I, really start to leverage this to help me in what I'm doing right now, and immediately just saw impact. And I think the people that don't embrace AI, it's just going to be harder. And right, it really is the idea of failure, like not to be afraid to explore things and be able to let go of the things that we try to control, because you just can't control what's happening with AI.
Yeah.
And you can't. It's got too much momentum, and there's too many people that are innovating on it. And so really the option is to embrace it. And there are so many people, I think, doing good with AI that you can sync up with and figure out how to do it well and do it right. And I think it's not just like marketing, it's not just business, but I think it's going to have an impact on every area of life.
Yes.
And so, it's from a practical standpoint, you start small and just explore and see, okay, where in my life or business can it make sense? And there's so many groups on Facebook and all over the place where there's communities, people are just like, really discovering this and unearthing the potential that it has for their lives. And so I think find a community that can help you and link arms with people that are probably very similar to where you are and have had similar emotions to what you might have, and just let go of the potential harm. Don't ruminate on that. Think about the potential good for your life.
That's awesome.
That is. Be the optimist, not the pessimist.
Yeah.
AI's coming for our jobs. I'm just kidding. That's great. Hey, before we started this episode, we were talking a little bit about some like the more practical things that you're doing. How are some ways that you're using AI currently?
Yeah.
Business.
Well, let me just say real quick. When I was running my businesses, I was always looking to replace myself. And at that point, I didn't have AI. It was people and processes. And so that's actually a good thing. Like that's what you want. If you want to grow and expand, you have to replace yourself.
Yeah.
There's no way around. You need capacity. And so I think with AI, what it's allowing is for people to get that capacity at a very low price. And so how I'm implementing in my consulting business now is just one quick example is I've been doing content, just trying to keep up with Julia, and she's intimidating with how prolific she is. And
when we had our author interview last night, he's like, Julia dragged me along. That's how fast she went.
Pretty accurate. Yeah. If only I'd really been dialed into the AI by then, But so I was in my consulting stuff, spending about 10 hours a week in content, writing, researching, whatever. And as we've introduced AI with another person, I've reduced that to like 30 minutes a week. Wow. So we're just leveraging, we've built some GPTs, ChatGPT prompts, and learning my message, and we're putting my newsletters in there and just really kind of building the learning of the GPT, to where my cost there has been reduced, not only from a financial standpoint, but my cost of time. And you look at a business, right, in our context, to have a business that runs well and runs for a long time, that's sustainable, you've got to have your costs, really in check. And so it just is like brought so much capacity in that standpoint to where, okay, how can I really put my time in other things that are more beneficial? So it's such a lever in a business. And it's like finding the problems, things maybe I don't want to do, I don't like doing, or maybe that are expensive. And that not only expensive from a financial standpoint, but a time standpoint, frustration standpoint, stress standpoint, And how do I replace myself with AI is the game. And I think people who adapt that mindset are going to do really well.
I love that. In fact, that's one of my challenges for 2024 that I tell people. We've done a few talks now where I say, for 2024, the main challenge and thing you should be aware of is what are the things that I need to do to replace myself with AI? And then if you've never played with AI before, the very first thing that you should do is play with it and have fun with it. I was sitting at an airport in Austin, and I was thinking about, I had no internet service, hardly at all. It was just like 1 megabyte up, 1 megabyte down. I was like, oh gosh, what am I going to do? I pulled up ChatGPT and created a D&D campaign through a custom GPT. I was able to play with it. There's all sorts of ways that you can play with ChatGPT and AIs in general, that the ability for you to learn through that process is incredible. And so if you just start there, and then based on that, you start to look for ways that you can incorporate it into your business, into your life, it can really cascade into this snowball of productivity that it'll save you a ton of time and then give you that time compression.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we were talking about before this episode. So going from that, let's go into more about, do you have, so you talked about some custom GPTs that you created. Is there any like specific ones that you'd like to talk about?
Sure. I mean, they're all content based and they're very specific. Like one is built around sales. Like, so if I want my team member, who I've got several team members in the Philippines, and this is another thing that's really interesting about AI is that the skill level required for a person that would have to go out and create content for me, the requirement of that skill level has been drastically reduced by building the learning with the AI, to where I've got a great Filipino. His name's John, in over there in the Philippines. Since he's Filipino, it's probably, he'd be in the Philippines, but he's able to go and write content from our AI, just really kind of hone it in. So we've got stuff that's meant to build trust with my audience, maybe a sales message, stories. Like I write a weekly newsletter and I have stories in there, so it pulls all that in. And so we can go into our GPT and just say, go. And, and it'll create a trust post or a story post or, whatever we need. And so it's crazy how easy it is really to get it set up. And I'm still like really an AI noob, especially compared to you guys. I'm like in my diaper still. I need AI. But yeah.
So don't feel bad. You're just getting started.
Don't feel bad at all.
AI diapers.
Yeah, I'm over here in diapers, and that should be a shirt that you guys create. I don't know. Maybe you want to straight out of the diaper.
Straight out of the diaper. The AI diaper.
Yeah.
Merch coming soon.
Merch coming soon. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it absolutely did. Now, I want to move into some like the more high-level conversations that are a little bit deeper. I want to talk about one, Neuralink. Have you know what Neuralink is?
Elon's company.
Yeah, it's an implant
brain
into your brain. Did you ever do something like that?
No.
Why not?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think I don't really know the incentive behind that, right? For the people, I think, from face value, Elon wants to make humanity better, but someone potentially having control, people's incentive and motives are something that I don't want to have direct. I don't want to lose control over my person. And that could, I guess, have the potential, right? I mean, it's a very fascinating thing. I think it'd be used for so much good. And like the first guy who, actually got the chip or whatever. But also is like, it's just like the mark of the beast, right? Like it's like end times stuff. It's just wild to even think that we're here having this conversation, man.
No.
But no, I personally wouldn't do it.
I wouldn't either. We have debate all the time. I would wear something that I could remove, but I would never allow my brain and my skull to be open. I mean, just the risk of infection alone, it's new, it's unproven. And then I think what you said, Chris, landed a really key point. What if somebody else could control you through this device and you had it in there and that risk was out there?
Yeah, I don't think it's wise people having access,
Yeah. I mean, people can still control you even without an implant. If you think about just advertising media in general, that's an interesting conversation.
It is.
I was in a cult. I was controlled for 20 years. I know what you're saying.
And so from that, let's go into like a more spiritual talk about this.
Okay.
Let's go into,
Do it.
do you think that AI will become sentient? And also, do you think that AI would possess a soul?
Going for the kill.
The people listening know what that means?
Yeah.
Because last night I didn't know what sentient means, so.
AI diapers.
No, I don't. Oh, I don't know about sentient, but no, I don't. They will. AI can't have a soul.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. It can't, Jeff. So we debate this as well.
What is it?
We don't debate the soul aspect of it. We debate the sentience portion of it.
But where does that come from?
And if it has emotions and stuff
That
like
comes
that.
from the soul. True consciousness comes from the soul, which is only something given to us by God. That's even the best scientists in the world have said there's no explanation for the soul. We can't quantify it. We can't measure it. We can't explain it in science. And so people like Ray Kurzweil, who believe in immortality through uploading your brain and letting your body become a meat sack, basically, that's the singularity.
That's like Doctor Who stuff right there.
Yeah, that's his version of the singularity, which he predicts, by the way, in 5 years. He went from 2045 to 5 years from now. So I think it's interesting to think about that because there's a level of simulation I think we're going to see in these humanoids and in even GPT-5 that will make it feel like you are interacting with something that has a soul. And you see this portrayed in movies like The Creator, where like groups of people in China begin to worship the AI and protect it more than they protect their own humanity. And they're willing to risk their lives for AI, but let their child die. Like, that is insane. But I think that's the level of simulated sentience we will see that will make us think, oh, this thing's real, living. It's more special than a human. I should let it govern me. Like, we're already seeing rumors of that. Like, let this thing govern the world. Let it become the new ruling body. Well,
That'll definitely happen, right? Because that is humanity's way. Humanity is oriented to have things to worship, right? It's like that thing in humanity is to worship.
Yeah.
You go all the way through history, and people would carve wooden idols to worship, like things that had no power. And so now we're talking about AI that
actually has power.
like insane power. So of course, like it is going to be raised high. People are going to worship it, but it will be a false god, 100%, because it is not the creator. And so it's a really interesting thing. And I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a further distinction between what is authentic and what's not. Right. And AI, you have that loss. And so it's really interesting because we live in a world where people are drowning in fake and they're exhausted and tired by it. So the culmination of AI, I think, is going to accelerate that, and then the desire for the authentic, and for truth and what's actually real.
You see that in the metaverse. Like, Mark Zuckerberg put everything, I think it was around 2020, in the metaverse. Hired like almost 100,000 people. Was like, this is going to be the thing. Well, 2 years later, they're laying off a quarter, 25,000 people. And the whole thing flopped as compared to what they predicted would happen. And now he's all in on AI, as we see from Llama 3 releasing, putting them neck and neck with OpenAI itself. So it's interesting. I think like this world presented of VR and fake reality is not actually what humans want, but it's what the marketing world wants the humans to want.
Yeah.
'Cause that's total control. If you see, hear only what I want you to see and hear, then you'll buy anything. You'll be susceptible to any kind of message.
Yeah,
But do humans want that?
Yeah, so I commented, I think it was Illuna AI. Yeah, he posts a lot about just AI news and stuff like that. You know what I'm talking about? Instagram. Robert something is his name, the guy that runs that. Anyways.
We're YouTube geeks. Wes Roth, all kinds of channels.
It's a really fast growing Instagram, but he posted something like that, just about, I don't even remember what it was, but I was one of the first comments, and I said, this is awful. This is not what people want. Something like that. It got thousands of likes.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I think people, as again, we were talking about last night, people are more isolated and lonely than before. And so therefore people need and want what's real and more connection than ever before.
Yes.
Yeah, I have the viewpoint that chaos kind of breeds the wanting of distraction. So when we're living in times where everything's really chaotic and people are, if we take a look like the political steer and like how things got really chaotic, especially like during COVID and all that. People wanted distractions.
Yeah,
And
like
so-
an escape.
Yeah. And so in terms of like VR, metaverse, stuff like that, that's where like you would see it boom and people wanting that escapism. But I think that, like you guys were talking about, most people want a real authentic experience. But that also depends on what our current climate is like. Like
It's also scary.
yeah, it is scary. Yeah. And so I think that depending on how things end up in the next 2 years, we could see the metaverse pop up again, and that'll be something people want to engage with even more. As AI tech advances, we get the wearables and things like that. It becomes easier and lower barrier of entry. I think that we could see people wanting to be distracted depending on what's going on. But it'll always be temporary. Everything operates in cycles. And so we'll see people that will want that realism, and then for a period of time it'll be distraction, and then realism, distraction, and go back and forth. But I don't see metaverse as a complete failure. I think it was too early in a time that it was just too inaccessible.
Yes.
And Mark knows that. And
What's coming with post-labor economics? So it's the idea of post-labor economics is the idea where robotics drives down the cost of everything so much because it's able to replicate what we do fully in the workforce, and we don't have to work anymore. So there's no company that hires a human. And this has been predicted by 2,700 AI researchers, and they predicted 2150 as the year this would hit. But if you cross-reference that with what we're seeing, the milestones being hit that they predicted wouldn't be hit for another 30 years, or being hit right now, we could see this in our lifetime, where robotics is doing 99 to 100% of the work. And in that kind of world, what will humans end up doing? And that's where I think the metaverse is going to be a very hot ticket item, because people will there's going to be a lot of idleness, and idleness breeds a kind of like, it's not the healthiest place to be in. It sends you to look for escapes, to look for things that are a distraction. And I think like the metaverse, we saw this in Ready Player One. Did you both see that movie? So it was like, but you see a dystopia presented, which I don't know if that's where we will head with this. So I don't fully think that has to be our world. But in a dystopia, people seek escape. And it was through that, a new world, which looked a lot like the metaverse in that movie, that people found their escape. And so 90% of the world was using it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like WALL-E, actually, where we're just on a spaceship, really overweight, ride around in chairs, drinking Slurpees. I don't know, but yeah. We're meant to work. We're meant to work, right? And so getting to the place where that might not be a thing, it's like, oof.
Yeah. But then when you look at the state of work, Gallup studied 1 billion people that work, and they found that 85% of those people are unhappy at work, to the point of like total depression, near
I've got a lot of
suicide.
facts about that.
Are we actually doing work that brings us meaning?
Yeah. Yeah, so much of the work today is based on greed and consumption.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like when it's all about the bottom line, it's like the slave driver just, whipping. I mean, it's like going back to Egypt,
Yeah.
right? Back in the day when the Jews were there, and it was all about the production.
Yeah.
It's a very similar thing where we live today, but we're slaves to perception people have, and having the nice house and the cars and whatever the things are. And so it's we are a slave to a system of production and performance. And of course, it's exhausting.
Yeah. And that's where I see, if you've watched any of my YouTube videos, which are crazy, I talk about the craziest stuff. I see this opportunity for something that's not quite Ready Player One, not quite The Creator, not quite Terminator, none of those movies, but this opportunity where we actually are freed up for the first time, like in all of humanity, where we don't have to work to produce a life we want. So that actually opens up this route where we're not driven by the need to be productive, which is often very unhealthy. And it takes you away from your family, takes you away from your friends, away from time in nature, solace, time to think. I've been there. It's terrible. And so if that's our opportunity, we could actually have a better life.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm very optimistic about the future.
Me
I think
too.
that
Yay, robots.
yeah, we'll enter an age of abundance, and we'll have people that will be able to find enlightenment and meaning in life a lot more than they can now. I think that poverty in general is a huge factor when it comes to people having to work. That's a main thing. But two, they're not able to be at peace with themselves and really think about the things that really matter to them. I think that when you free up somebody from having those stressors to allow them to pursue things like family, friends, happiness, and the things they enjoy, I think that we'll see a more productive society because of that. Yeah.
I like the idea that I don't know if I fully agree with it. I wish I could, because I was there, and I think that so much of why I pushed so hard my businesses to grow them is because I didn't want to listen to my internal state, and I was forced to. And so I would just wonder, like, when there is more capacity, will people fill that up with things? Because like that is why we do so many things we do, is because of the internal state,
right?
Whether the busyness, distraction, excess of so many things. And so are we just going to find other things to fill that aren't healthy? Because when I left my businesses and I had silence, my family was gone to school, and I'm just around the house, I had to have noise. Like I needed distraction, because the fear, and I was scared, and so now I'm really grateful for the process and like enduring through that. But it's like, man, having kind of my eyes open to that in the state of humanity and what my state was, that's my hope. But I think it might be a lot more difficult, Yeah.
It's a good point. Ready Player One.
It'll definitely be difficult. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And it'll be a journey for every single person. And I don't think that every single person will fit into that like picture perfect mold.
Yeah.
Certain people will be more chaotic, will have more dark desire, I should say. But the vast majority, my belief is that they will experience the forms of enlightenment, forms of being at peace, and being able to pursue things that the AI is able to bring that about is awesome. And that UBI is obviously something that I'm very interested in. I don't see it implementing in our lifetime. Universal basic income.
Okay.
So everybody will have a standard of living provided to them based off of the work that AI does, replacing workers. They get taxed, and then that gets redistributed to the population. So hopefully we see something like that. If not, we'll be in a world of hurt.
Because what will people do when there's no jobs?
Yeah.
So the UBI is the proposed solution,
Right.
where it could help feed people.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I think, just knowing the humanity and the greed of people. I'm not a pessimistic person.
But you're a realist.
I'm a realist, and I understand humanity to a greater degree than I ever have, right? Being a marketer and studying psychology and all that kind of stuff.
Largest ad agency.
Yeah, so it's like, I think greedy people are going to be greedy people, and that would be cool. And it's an interesting thing. It kind of actually goes back to a biblical conversation where that is the intent, to raise people who are lowly up, right? To be able to contribute. So I love the idea of that being a possibility.
Yeah. I think that's a fantastic spot to end up there. Let me go ahead and I want to talk about, where can people find you? What would be somebody to follow you on social, whatever you want.
Charlotte, North Carolina.
Tell me not stop.
There's a coffee shop I go to 3 times a week. No, I don't show up, please. They'll send it drones. I've actually had people show up at my house. It wasn't fun, but so Instagram is a great place. Chris A. Evans is my handle. And then I write a newsletter every week for entrepreneurs. It's chrisaevans.com/newsletter. I don't really talk about AI. Maybe I will now, but I think it's pretty good information. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you guys can check out Julia and Chris Evans' new book called The Joy of Failure on Amazon. Definitely pick that up. It is a fantastic read. If you're somebody that struggles with fear and failure, I'd definitely check that out. We had a revelation even just talking to you guys on stage, where I was nervous, like just even presenting and talking to you guys and asking questions, and then that kind of dropped and faded away as the conversation went on. So if you want to learn from somebody that has experience, both of these people are fantastic for that. So I highly recommend reading that book. And that's about it.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here, Chris.
Yes.